The year is 2006, the first Cars movie gets released in the cinemas, the Winter Olympics takes place in Turin, Italy, England get knocked out in a penalty shootout, again, and Michael Schumacher announces his retirement from Formula 1, before making an unsuccessful return in 2010 with Mercedes. The year would also see a very exciting season for the UK's premier motorcycle series, the British Superbike Championship. In that season, 3 riders would duke it out for the title, which were the reigning champion that season, Gregorio Lavilla, who after a strong start to the defence of his title had crashed out in the previous 3 meetings, Japan's Ryuichi Kiyanari, who was looking to get redemption after losing the title in 2005 following an injury at the beginning of that season, and also inconsistency in the second half of that season, and a 23-year-old Derbyshire lad, even though he was born in London, by the name of Leon Haslam, who also just happened to be Lavilla's teammate that year, and also happened to be the son of former MotoGP and World Superbike rider Leon Haslam. Leon's inclusion into the title fight was quite significant, as going into race 2 at Croft, he found himself 17 points behind championship leader Ryuichi Kiyanari, who had won the previous 3 races, and 6 points ahead of his teammate Greg Lavilla, despite the fact that Leon had not achieved a win so far. How he was in the title fight was mainly down to his consistency, with him grabbing a podium in all but 3 races up until this point, whilst both Kiyanari and Lavilla, despite taking numerous wins and having Haslam's number on most occasions, would often suffer from a huge amount of inconsistency, which allowed Leon to keep up with the pair of them. But with only a few meetings remaining in the 2006 season, Leon couldn't keep relying on consistent scoring if he wanted to win the title, and needed to start picking up a win at some point. And luckily for him, that moment would come in what would turn out to be arguably his greatest ever win in BSB. This is the story of race 2 of the 2006 meeting at Croft. After a dry race 1, which saw Ryuichi Kiyanari grab his 3rd win in a row, followed by the 2 Ducatis, race 2 would be a completely different story, as rain had made its way onto the circuit, which saw the lap distance being reduced from 20 laps to 18 laps. Just like in race 1 however, the grid would be the same, with future World Superbike champion Jonathan Rea starting on pole position on the Red Bull Honda. He would be joined on the front row by the 3 championship contenders, with Haslam lining up in 2nd, Kiyanari 3rd and Lavilla 4th. Also, for anyone wondering, unlike MotoGP, 4 riders start on the front row in BSB as opposed to 3. However, neither of them would end up leading the race come the first corner, as at the start, both Michael Rutter on the Stobart Honda and Tommy Hill on the Virgin Media Yamaha would jump the front 4 to take the lead at the first corner, whilst Haslam had a shocking start and dropped all the way back down to 10th. Haslam would gain a place back before the end of the first lap to move up to 9th, whilst in front of him, his teammate Greg Lavilla would make quick work of future champion Tommy Hill at turn 8 to move up into 2nd place and set his sights on Rainmaster Michael Rutter. Tommy would then end up tumbling down the order as he would get overtaken by Kiyanari at the last corner before being swamped by Kio's teammate Carl Harris and pole sitter Johnny Ray. Haslam meanwhile had been quietly making his way through the order, as he would gain 3 places on lap 2, disposing of the then one-time champion Shane Byrne at turn 1, then Peter Hickman at turn 7, and then becoming the latest rider to bump Tommy Hill back down the order at turn 8 to move up into 6th. Moving on to lap 3, and the late Carl Harris would get better traction compared to his teammate Kiyanari at the exit of turn 7 to move up into the final podium places, showing there was no team orders at the HM Plant Honda team despite Kio being the title contender. But straight away, it became clear why Harris was allowed to go through, as he was much quicker than the top 2 of Rutter and Lavilla, and as a result, Carl set his sights on grabbing the lead. On the following lap, the conditions would start to catch out some riders, with cut rider Marty Nutt getting caught out, as well as pole sitter Johnny Ray, who after trying to overtake Kio, would catch a wet patch and fall off his bike, promoting Haslam up into 5th place. Whilst that was happening, Harris, unseen by the cameras, was able to pass Leveer into second place, and then a lap later would get much better traction out of turn 3 compared to Rutter to take the lead of the race. Harris would then pull a gap to the rest of the field, whilst behind and on lap 6, Haslam, after closing in on Keogh, would go down the inside of the Japanese rider to move up into 4th despite running wide at the exit. His teammate, meanwhile, after being stuck behind Rutter, would finally dispose of the Stobart Honda at the exit of turn 7 to move up to 2nd, but would struggle to catch up to Harris. 2 laps later, and it was very clear that Rutter was struggling, as Leon Haslam was now on the back of him. Heading into turn 7, seems a lot of action has been going on down here, Haslam would go for a lunge down the inside of Rutter, but would lose the back end, forcing both of them wide and sending Rutter onto the grass, moving Haslam up to 3rd, somehow avoiding a penalty. Throughout the next 3 laps, Haslam would get stuck behind his teammate Greg Leveer, struggling to find a way past his Spanish teammate, whilst behind, Keogh, who was struggling in the wet, was being hounded by the Rizzler Suzuki of Shane Byrne. On lap 12, and after being stuck behind for 3 laps, Haslam would get much better traction compared to Leveer at the exit of the chicane to finally move into 2nd place. However, due to being stuck behind Greg for a long time, it meant that Harris had pulled a massive 8.3 seconds in front, and with 6 and a bit laps to go, it looked to be an impossible task for Haslam to overcome. Elsewhere, and unseen by the cameras, Byrne, after hounding Chianari for a while, would finally make his move on the Japanese rider to move up to 4th, ensuring Keogh would lose more points in the standings to the 2 Airways Ducati riders. Moving on to lap 14, and after a good start early on in the race, Tommy Hill, after tumbling down the order since the mid part of the first lap, would end up doing the same thing as what his sponsor Virgin Media does, which is go down at the second to last corner, ending his race as a result. Back at the front, and Harris still continued to have a comfortable lead. However, behind him, Leon Haslam, now in clear air, was starting to get the hammer down, taking 2 seconds off his good friend Harris at the end of lap 13, before taking another 2 seconds out of Harris on the following lap. After looking like it would be a clear victory for Carl Harris, suddenly, the race got interesting, and Haslam could sense a chance at his first win of 2006, and his first since Brands Hatch GP the previous year. Heading into the beginning of lap 16, and Leon took another second out of Harris's lead, meaning that if he could keep up this pace, he would be on the back of Harris just before the end of the race. However, on lap 17, Haslam would only take 4 tenths out of Harris's lead, and it looked like as a result that Leon would not overhaul Harris before the end of the race. But despite this, Haslam would not give up and continue to dig deep to gain onto the back of Harris. And luckily for Haslam, he would get a helping hand, as towards the end of the penultimate lap, Harris would get held up by the green Yamaha of Craig Sproston, as a result of Craig failing to see the HM plant Honda, forcing Carl to go the long way around. Going on to the final lap, and Haslam found himself 1.4 seconds behind Harris thanks to the hold-up from Sproston. But even with that hold-up, Leon still needed to find more time on the final lap if he wanted to take the win. Throughout the first sector, Haslam would gain a lot of time on Harris around the first 5 corners and would get much better traction compared to Carl at the exit of the chicane. Throughout the next few corners, Leon continued to gain more time, seemingly looking like Harris was not aware that he was catching him. Heading into turn 10, and Haslam was right on the back of Haslam, continuing to follow him for the next 2 turns. And then, with better traction once again out of turn 12, Haslam made his move down the inside at the third to last corner to grab the lead off Harris. Harris tried to get back at Haslam into the final corner after the Ducati rider went slightly wide, but he couldn't find a way back past. Blasting out of the final corner, Haslam crossed the line to finally take his first win of 2006, beating Harris to the line by only 0.09 of a second. From dropping down to 10th at the start, Haslam carved his way through the order in an amazing ride to finally end his near 1-year winning drought. As a result of this amazing ride, and with Keogh finishing down in 5th, Haslam now found himself just 4 points behind Keogh in the standings, and also 15 points ahead of his reigning champion teammate Leveer. Haslam would then take the lead in the standings at the following meeting at Cadwell Park, thanks to him grabbing another win. However, sadly for Leon, he wouldn't win the title, as after a frustrating meeting at the international layout of Silverstone, he would end up just missing out on the title at the double points Brands Hatch GP finale to the HM Plant Honda of Ryuichi Kiyanari, who finally got redemption after missing out on the title in 2005. Leon would go another 11 years, including another 3 missed chances in 2008, 2016 and 2017, and also a missed chance at the World Superbike title in 2010, before finally winning the British Superbike title in 2018 after a dominant season, following Shane Byrne's career-ending crash during a testing session. After a failed second stint to the World Superbike Championship between 2019 and 2022, Leon would once again return to the British Superbikes in 2023, where he continues to race to this day. But out of all the wins he has achieved in his career, this one back in 2006 was by far his best one, and I'm pretty sure he would say the same thing as well.